Ladies and gentlemen and fellow Americans, capitalists, entrepreneurs, and all the people who go to work every day, make money, and try and provide for your families, welcome back to this episode of The Source, Rulebreakers, Lawmakers, and Influencers. Will Carrente. Joined with me today is Nick Monaki, founder and CEO of Bundle IQ. And Nick's been on the show a couple times. And in the age of AI, and now like Claude is all the rage, you can't go through Instagram without seeing a million cheat codes for Claude and all of these things that, it's catching on mainstream of how to be entrepreneurial with AI. First, reintroduce yourself. And Nick is the OG of AI. Going back to the old LLMs. And so just want to have a discussion today about, where AI is, obviously get an update on Bundle IQ and the niches that you see in the market, but then also talk a little bit about, where we're going with AI and what is sort of the best use cases from an entrepreneur standpoint. And also maybe some of the guardrails people should have around their personal usage of AI.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me back on the show, Will. That's my second time. I think it was a couple of months, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, prior to the agentic boom, so to speak. But yeah, my name's Nick Monaki. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bundle IQ. It's a company that we started down this journey. I was living part-time in San Francisco in 2018. I learned about the transformer model. The premise was there's a lot of information. It's overwhelming. How do you make sense of it all and better yet, make better decisions as a result of your sense-making ability? So we built the first AI-powered knowledge management system and launched that in 2020. Hence the name Bundle IQ, so bringing knowledge together so that people can tap into it. And then we launched the first chat agent a year and 9 months before ChatGPT with the World Bank in DC on International Women's Day. So that would have been, I think, 2021. And we didn't even use an LLM. Like LLMs weren't a thing at that time. We used a Roberta model. So yeah, tokenization, vectorization, like there were no vector DBs. We used S3 buckets from Amazon. And I mean, yeah, if I knew more about where the world was going.
No habla AI.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to explain what some of those vector buckets and tokenization is for people who don't know.
Yeah, so the essence is this: like these are called language models, right? So think about language, and if I say dog, you may think cat, domestic animal, many other things relating to dogs. And in addition to the types of dogs, you own a VIP. Fortuitously, you own a VIP, right? So how do you make connections across large volumes of information? Well, essentially, what these transformer models do is they turn them into vectors. And embeddings, which are essentially like representations of words and sentences and paragraphs, et cetera, in 3D space. So think about like, dog might be represented in this area, cat might be here, et cetera. So, and then you look at like the cosine similarity or par dot product of like where in relation they are to each other, which is mathematical representation. So anyway, long story short, what does it look like in the age of...
So you're saying like basically a dog is to a cat. Okay, well, they're both mammals, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're both domestic animals.
Yeah.
Right. And then AI is kind of extrapolating everything around the cat, everything around the dog.
Mathematically, yeah.
To create some sort of context of what you might be asking or querying or what it should be guessing is what you're after.
Yeah.
Until it gets the straight question, right?
Yeah. It's a predictive model based on context and similarity, which is ultimately a mathematical equation. Yeah. So I know, deducing it down to math, but that's essentially the world around us as it is, as we know it today.
Well, it's interesting because I was reading something recently where it's like we live in a 5-dimensional world, right? And because
was the 5th like spirit, or what's the 5th?
Well, the 5th is spirit.
Okay.
Source, connection to God.
Yeah.
Right. but really, like you're when you're mapping a center point, you've got all of these other tangential points that point to it.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, we've come obviously a very long way since 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And now it just feels like magic a little bit, even though there is still mathematical representations of the series of events that are taking place.
So let me ask you a question. If it all boils down to math, explain hallucination of AI.
Hallucination's an interesting one, right? Because you and I hallucinate all the time. If I were to say, like, tell me a story when you were 12 years old in, you know, middle school in the lunchroom, you might tell me a story, and as you recall it, your memory is kind of faint, right? So it's similar in that way, in the sense that, you know, except hallucination, when we put it to a machine, right, or we hold it to like a very, very high standard, even though we do it all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting, just to like go off on a tangent, is, you know, when people look at memories of their parents or look at significant events that happened in their lives, right? There's your memory of it, right? And then there's the emotional charge to the memory, which for us is what creates the hallucination, right? It's like when you say to your mom, oh, remember that time you refused to make chocolate chip cookies for me because I was angry, right? And your mom is like, no, I refused to make chocolate chip cookies because you said you didn't like them, right? And our memory imprint is like, my mom was mean to me. She wouldn't make me chocolate chip cookies. So
yeah, well, those are
tangent.
Analogous to impressions. So like those imprints or those like embeddings of like that memory in 3D space, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's same but different. Yeah.
Well, what I've been noticing is like when I'm going into Claude, and I'll start a conversation, and it will retrieve only part of what previously happened, instead of like the whole conversation. So it'll say, you know, for instance, I was trying to build a Gmail filter triage system, right? And it kept hearkening back all the way to the initial query of what I wanted instead of the most recent query of where I was trying to get to. And so I had to refresh it manually and say, hey, no, remember, we switched from triaging this way to triaging that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is a thing we're obsessed with. Like, as a company, we're really the knowledge layer that takes and structures data so that you can use it in a persistent and extensible way so that it's the same every time. And as you just alluded to, these LLMs and agents, they can only hold so much in their context window. And even there's like a bell curve of like how much accuracy and efficacy there is in that. So this is why our entire business exists, is to like really help people connect those dots and ensure that, you know, the LLM is just kind of what I call sort of the last mile, or it's the articulation layer of AI. So it's the ability to talk to it or chat with it. Everything else that's sort of under the hood or under the surface and the substrate of data management is really where there's like so much opportunity to improve upon. I mean, just yesterday I was speaking with the CTO of Neo4j, which is probably the largest knowledge graph company in the world. I saw that 84 out of the 100 Fortune 100s use Neo4j. And so, you know, we're using Neo4j and we're doing certain things to make that knowledge retrievable so that the LLMs don't hallucinate, and they are strict and they are binded to information that's referenceable. Yeah.
So let me ask you something about security, data security, data privacy. So for instance, I was trying to map my closest contacts for finding my blind spots. Like, hey, I've known Nick for 5 years, right? This is what Nick is working on. what are some additional areas of collaboration maybe that I can't see, right? Claude was like, hey, don't put your most valuable relationships into me. Set up an Obsidian database.
Interesting.
And keep all of your private information in Obsidian, which is like a private, right? It's a private vault.
It's hosted locally.
And then as you need that information, basically call in the information into Claude, right? And then Claude will do the function, right, for that mapping. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the benefits of Bundle IQ is that anything I upload is kind of sitting in my own database, right? And then I'm calling against my own data for that.
Yeah.
Versus, because anything I upload, even though Claude says, okay, if you're on a Teams account, there's privacy already automatically embedded into it. But I've also been hearing like there is leakage, right? So I can put things into Claude in a Teams account that is supposed to be private, that Anthropic is still going to wind up getting some degree of that data.
Yeah, I mean, look, first and foremost, we're LLM agnostic as a company, meaning that we can use any LLM. So you can have your self-hosted LLM, or if you wanted to spin up Gamma or one of the ones locally, which would ensure that there's no leakage, But that being said, like for enterprises and for the masses, I mean, we're all kind of bound to the terms and conditions of these, the Mag 7, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, there's not really much you can do, except start to host things locally, which you mentioned Obsidian. And I think a lot of things will probably start to go in that direction if they haven't already. I don't know the stats, but I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's funny. I recently met somebody from the intelligence community, and I was like, oh, I haven't told Claude like my real name. I haven't told my Claude, I won't tell it obviously like date of birth, social security, like that kind of stuff, right? And it's like, he's like, it knows, right? Like it knows, and I'm like, but then what I realized today was, well, I have to upload my credit card.
Yeah, of course.
To pay for my service. So it knows who I am.
I mean, in theory,
it knows that I have an American Express account, right? And given sort of the data connectivity, right, I'm sure I could figure out that, well, it knows my billing zip code, right? So it knows I'm in West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
It knows that I have an American Express card. It knows my full name, right? So, I'm sure behind the scenes, it's kind of piecing together all of these little data points.
Yeah, I mean, look, the OG perpetrators were Experian and all the, the companies that send you direct mail every day.
Yeah.
People talk about AI in this way that they're like, oh my gosh, there's this new thing that's like, consuming my entire identity in my life and like all the things that I'm doing. But the reality is like the credit bureaus have had this information and they've, for lack of better terms, have been pretty predatory about it for a long time.
Yeah, selling it to other,
exactly.
Selling it to other people.
Yeah,
I think that's the interesting thing is like our data is in so many different places without our express permission, because how many people read the terms and conditions in their apps?
Yeah, no way.
Right? That says, oh, hey, we can mine your data, we can take your contacts, we can take screenshots. I mean, TikTok's pretty predatory about that. If you ever read their conditions of what they're doing, right? They're monitoring keystrokes and et cetera. So
yeah, I mean, Instagram serves up ads. Like I'm probably going to have a credit card ad pretty soon, just from that. Or Amex, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, the world that we're in is, I think, just only being augmented and expedited by AI. I see it really as an X function. So, the base of what already exists is what exists. That's the foundational layer of the internet and everything that we just discussed around personally identifiable information, emails, et cetera. And so now you've got an agent that can act on your behalf, and you have this X function to perpetuate any of the good and any of the bad that exists in the world today. And that's where, you really have to be mindful. And we just, as a creator of these type of technology, just being really mindful about how we go to market and what we do and what we open up to the world.
It's interesting. In this Gmail triage system that I was building, there was one thing I've noticed with Claude is the candor of it. Because I said to it, I said, well, if I let you run this automation of my Gmail triage, you're reading all of my emails. And they're like, yes. And I'm like, and so what privacy is there? And it was like, well, because you own certain types of businesses, because of the other things that you do, right? Then an automated triage system is probably not what you want for someone who values privacy, right? And so I'll give you a manual filter system that you can put in so that things will route into certain boxes that will make you more productive or give you a better handle of, instead of looking at a cluttered email box of 700 emails, right? At least it'll be broken out into newsletters, needs to be done today, need your attention, right? Or something that your assistant can go in and manually triage for you. So I think to your point about like what's previously existed and what's coming now is really to have that discernment of the user to, instead of just accepting, you ask it to execute a command and it executes that command, is to have the discernment to say, hey, wait a second, before you execute this command, what are the ramifications of this command in comparison to data privacy, in comparison to my privacy? What are potential unintended consequences of this command running, in my business, in my inbox, in my life, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it all boils down to trust. So, I think there's, I don't think that's something you can legislate. I think it's something that, the leadership inside of these institutions has to really kind of double down on, and it's always been that way. I mean, brands are essentially entities of trust. I trust certain brands to not poison me when I put laundry detergent in my, machine, right? Yeah. Which is a human function. And I think all this stuff is a human function, really. Right. I think the big question is like, what does it look like to keep up in such a rapid rate of progress? Which is sort of, I think the $1 trillion question. Right. Because it feels so frivolous and so loose, so to speak. And legislators will want to legislate, and builders will want to build, and capitalists will want to invest. And it's just, so.
I think the really sad thing is legislators don't know what they're legislating.
No, I had a great conversation with somebody yesterday that wants to spin up one of our products is Alani Connect, which brings content and community together into a shared AI-powered space. So think like chat room versus chat bot, multiplayer versus single player. And part of their lobbyists and part of their challenge / opportunity is that a lot of this stuff has been pushed to the state in terms of, and it's a lot to keep up with. I mean, as a founder, I'm like, I mean, you know how it is. Like you can't keep up. Right. So you need sort of a trusted source to garner insight and be apprised of these very instrumental changes and updates so that you can get ahead of it and stay ahead of it and also know when to like really lean in and voice your opinion and call people that, maybe have never picked up the phone and called before. Yeah.
Yeah. What, when you look at Bundle, where do you see the best use case? Now, I know you're doing stuff in the event space, so maybe you want to talk a little bit about that. Where do you see the best use cases for Bundle for an individual, for a corporation, and in what you're doing in the event space?
Yeah, so I'll break it down, like just zooming all the way out. connecting the dots, kind of simplifying it and zooming in. So if we zoom all the way out, there's two types of data. You have structured and unstructured data. So unstructured is like what we're doing right now, audio, video, PDFs, et cetera, anything that's out of a row and column. And then structured data is like a spreadsheet, a data table, a database, et cetera. And, today those worlds are very disparate in an AI-enabled way. And so we've done a really good job structuring unstructured data and ensuring that those two worlds can talk to each other, so that we can persist memory and all those things. So just from that alone, like you hooking your Claude up to our MCP would make your agent smarter, period.
Really?
Yeah. So that's...
And I can do that via a connector?
MCP, yeah. Exactly.
Cool.
So
okay.
that's just a basic
put a little
opportunity
flag there.
Exactly.
To
on the individual level. And then for your business, like think about all the emails, all the PDFs, all the invoices, all the things that you're trying to do with your inbox, for instance. Like it's one thing to send an agent into your inbox and to clean it up, so to speak, or optimize it maybe once a week, whatever. It's another thing to actually take that information out and structure it so that it's in a data table, which is essentially like replacing a CRM in many cases, and it's smart.
Yeah.
So now it's...
And I could do that with Bundle.
Yeah, exactly. We have a new product coming out called Alani Insights, which is our structured data product. We currently have a logistics firm using it, and there's more to come on that, but yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you bring, okay, so let's just stay on track. So tell me about the event space, and then we'll kind of go back to use cases of 1, 2.
So the reason why the events opportunity sort of even came to my mind, I guess, it was a shower thought, is when ChatGPT came out, I called that I think I said this in the last podcast, the Whole Foods effect. Like nobody talked about organic chicken before Whole Foods.
Right.
Right. Now it's like, okay, we got to get organic chicken. It wasn't even a word or really part of people's society. It was a societal thought. So when ChatGPT came out, it created critical mass, and now we're like, holy cow, now we can just talk to the world's information. That's insane. And so, obviously it got tremendous adoption, and now we're talking about Claude and all the other ones, Grok, et cetera. But the challenge is that, I don't want to say challenge. The reality is that there's public information and then there's private information. And so when you think about all the data that's not in Google and not in ChatGPT, but it still touches every industry, where is that data out?
Yeah.
In most cases, it's in an association, like a trade association or a conference or some kind of trade org or something that you're a part of as an industry, and you're probably already part of some of these, right? You walk into a conference hall, there's 450 keynote presentations, and you're
25 breakouts per day.
Exactly.
Right?
And 6,000 people, and then there's, 500 vendors, and you're like, how?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what we said is, and I call this the internet's Roku moment. So when Roku came out in 2007, basically what they did is they empowered publishers to package up their content and offer it as a streaming subscription, which ultimately killed cable and changed the entire paradigm of how we consume entertainment. But any of us, any of these, you as a publisher as well, can publish your content to Roku or to a smart marketplace, so to speak, on a smart TV. Click subscribe, and now I'm consuming your information. Same, but different. So now you're a conference. We just got back from the Human X conference in San Francisco. I mean, probably, if not the most important AI conference in the United States, one of, for sure. They did have about 400 keynote presentations. Jensen Huang from NVIDIA spoke. The former CTO of the CIA spoke. I mean, you name it. The who's who of AI spoke at this event. Well, it's $3,500 to attend the event. You get there, you leave with a bunch of business cards, a bunch of scanned badges, and you're trying to figure out how to connect the dots later, and you can't do research on all the vendors. So what we did is we said, what if we can spin up a connect room? And so as soon as you leave the event, all the transcripts are in there, all the videos are in there, the attendees, the bios, the profiles, the vendors, et cetera. We built a knowledge graph of that. You can ask Alani anything. Who should I talk to regarding, early stage investment, blah, 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 blah. And it literally connects the dots, minute 12 of one keynote presentation, minute 37 of a panel discussion. And here's the 5 people you might want to talk to.
That's amazing.
And none of that stuff's in Google or ChatGPT.
So let me ask you a follow-up question to that is, I didn't go to Human X. I'm sad that I missed it. is there a latent monetization model that you can provide to HumanX that says, as people find out about this Alani
Connect,
right, that they can pay like a late registration. So $250 goes to HumanX, and then they get access to that Alani event space.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Or can I go in now as a Bundle IQ and Alani subscriber and just see it?
No, it's paid. It's a premium room. So we have three types of rooms. We have premium, which is what we just described, and where we do a rev share with the owner of the room.
Okay.
We have a public room, and we have a private room. So public is open to anyone. The owner of the room pays for the adoption. A private room is open to only a select group, whoever you invite.
Investors.
Yeah, whomever. Yeah. And so premium rooms HumanX is our first premium room that we're spending we already spun it up.
So I can go into it.
Yeah, and you can
pay a fee.
It's $299 for the year.
For the year.
Yeah.
I think two things. One, creating that long tail of revenue for conferences, especially since there was a Tomorrow Cities thing at the convention.
Yeah, I saw that.
I signed up for it. It looked really interesting, but you know how it is. Your day gets, it's different when an event is happening in town versus like, oh, I physically went to San Francisco, so the only reason I'm there is to go to this.
Yeah.
Versus like, hey, I really want to get there, but fires came up at work, so I didn't go.
Yeah.
But for me to be able to pay a fee to go into a room that I can then query, like, hey, I really wanted to see that segment on AI in the planning board space in municipalities.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. That's the whole premise of it. Because look, what happens after the conference is over? You have to wait till the next one, right? There's this massive gap between day 3 and day 362 to bring you back to the event. And so this bridges that gap, and it really does foster community building and ecosystem building, and it becomes a real asset for the owner of the room, because this becomes like, business intelligence around like, who are these people? What are they interested in? Like,
what was that club thing that they Clubhouse.
Oh yeah.
That they tried to do, right?
Well, it was very popular during COVID.
Yeah. But
it fizzled. I mean, now everyone has other things to do. But none of that stuff was recorded. Yeah. That's the thing, right? This becomes the source of knowledge for what we identified as 3 archetypes. Yeah. So there's the learner. So that's maybe somebody that wants to understand urban planning and how AI is being used around whatever. So the learner is one. The networker. So who should I meet here because I have an agenda and I have ideas and I have whatever. And then the last one is the executive, which is as a business owner, I have a specific operational problem I need to solve, and I need to find the right vendor to help me solve that problem. And so that's...
I would add a fourth.
What's the fourth?
The pioneer.
Okay. What's the pioneer?
Pioneer sees the mountain out there, and they're not looking to learn. They're looking to data gather to create their vision.
Okay. Yeah. So they're like a researcher of sorts.
Well, it's when you had your initial, let's say you hadn't created Bundle IQ and you were going to HumanX because you had this framework in your mind of what Bundle IQ could be.
Yeah.
And I just want to go there and I want to get all the pieces that I'm missing to bring them together to create my future product.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Like a creator
Could call it a trailblazer, right? Pioneer is more, think about westward expansion.
Totally.
Right?
There's plenty of pioneers, people that went into the unknown.
Exactly.
And took a lot of risk, and they were there for the adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like that.
So going back to your email example, right? The interesting thing is this, like I think when most people like me look at email, it's like, I'm going to search my email for a specific thing, like an old conversation or something that might have come up. Well, I've been in business 23 years. So do you know how many ideas how many notes from consultants.
Totally. You just emailed yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not only that, like things that consultants had sent to me that we weren't ready for in our evolution cycle.
Right.
Or marketing companies had sent us things that, the time and the technology wasn't there yet. And so when I look at that aspect of being able to, and I'm going to use words that make sense for me. They may not be the words that make sense in your technology world, right? But if I could clone my inbox and move it into Alani and then be able to query that inbox and say, this is a marketing challenge I'm having today. To your point, way back when we talked about Ford, right? They had all these design things that lived in one area that the executives and the visionaries of where Ford was going couldn't say like, oh yeah, we tried, triangular windshield wipers 30 years ago and they didn't work, versus somebody saying, let's try triangular windshield wipers, right? So how could I query my email almost as a data repository and say, these are the 5 challenges I'm working on today in my business. Where have these 5 challenges previously come up? And were there any solutions created that I have not implemented?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that today. I think there's a Claude MCP with Outlook or Gmail, and you can certainly do it in our system. I think the thing is like, sometimes you don't know what to ask.
Yeah.
Right. So helping sort of engineer these eureka moments based on context or based on what you're reading or based on where you are in a moment. So like maybe you click on an email and like based on that email, it tells you, hey, you might want to check out this email.
Yes.
Right. Like, and that's really what our patent is on.
Yeah.
And so that, there's a lot of ways to do it, but at the end of the day, you have to have that, again, that data layer that can help orchestrate that, because today the way that a Claude agent is and just a lot of these tools, they're very they consume a lot of they're very wasteful.
Yeah.
And they hit limits like super fast.
Yep.
So the more specificity that you can build into the intention of what it is you're aiming to achieve in this email example, the better off you're going to be. And our goal is to really empower the creator to do that, and the company to do that, and do it in a way that can scale. And that's a big word, is scale.
Yeah.
Because you can create prototypes and do all these things all day long, but to actually scale it is a totally different story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so can you do that in Bundle right now?
Yeah.
Could I spin up my email inside of Bundle?
Yeah. In our Alani Insights product. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so now, obviously a lot of things come down to cost, right?
Yep.
Started off on the regular plan, it was $20. Then I moved to Teams, right? So that's $125, right? Then there's a next level up, which is like $200 a month, right? And so when you look at, kind of architecting, right? Because I also have a Grok subscription, I have a ChatGPT subscription. I set up another Claude for my assistants, because one of the downsides with projects is everything inside of a project is private. I'm paying my assistants to do certain work for me. So
when you say assistant, you mean your actual assistant or your AI assistant?
my actual assistants.
Okay.
So one of the things I did is I created a subscription that I pay for tied to my email address. So everything in the projects and the chats that they work on, I can see, because I'm paying them to create that work product. But in a team structure, if I put you on my team, any projects you create are private to you. I can't see them unless you share that project with me.
Yeah.
Which kind of defeats the purpose of a corporate entity entrusting people to create knowledge that would then be beneficial to the corporation versus just between the AI and the individual.
That makes sense.
So, and Claude even recommended this. They're like, if you want to be able to see the work product and own the work product that you're paying for, then you set up an account tied to your email address that they work inside of. Right. And then you have ownership of it, which then allows me to take that work product and add it into what I'm working on and say, okay, where am I being efficient, inefficient, et cetera. So the question that I was getting to was cost-wise. If I wanted to be able to use like all of Alani's features, what would that cost? And would I be able, in the context of our conversation, would I be able to bring over my Dropbox? Would I be able to bring over my email set so that I could query my own data?
Yeah, so business modeling is probably the hardest thing in this new era. I mean, it's difficult, period. But it's certainly in the AI era, it's really, really challenging to work through. We spent probably 3 weeks trying to figure out Alani Connect pricing and then Alani Insights pricing. Because it's all structured data and like how do we charge for this? And so what we came up with is almost similar to like a Constant Contact or like a MailChimp or something, where it's based on records.
Okay.
So like a field in the data, because you can create as many data tables as you want, and those are essentially like spreadsheets, but they're actual SQL databases.
Okay.
So like I wrote this blog post, spreadsheets aren't databases. You know, you've probably tried to open up a 1,100 row spreadsheet. What happens? Yeah. It just like crashes your machine, right? And then furthermore, there's just a lot of nuance around why SQL and structured data just works, especially with APIs and MCPs and all that kind of stuff. So what we're doing is saying, okay, we can bring the power of a database to a normal person that doesn't know how to provision databases and do it at a scale that each organization, going back to privacy, has their own SQL database. So the data is never commingled, right? Which is a big thing. Yeah. So long story short, it's kind of like a cost per 1,000 records. So if you were to, let's say you had, in the last 23 years of being in business, you had, I don't know, 500,000 emails. And let's say that each email was a record, then you would have 500,000 records. And it's like a penny or less, you know. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's really interesting. Because it needs to scale, right? Like we got to be able to scale this and have, you know, essentially millions of users.
I don't know if it was an intended use of bundle, but it seems like for somebody like me who's privacy focused, one of the things would be using Claude to build the how I want something to function, sort of the app side of it, of like I wanted to do this task, that task, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as to the Obsidian example is, my secure database is at Bundle IQ. I want you to go to Bundle to get it, bring it back, right? And then this way, that data is never really part of Claude in a mass sense.
I was going to say that the portions are like whatever.
Yeah, whatever goes in and out of it is. Yeah. But whatever, it's not looking at this entire data set. I'm not uploading this data set to Claude and saying use this as my database. Right, because then it's part of.
And the reality is, you never could, because the LLMs aren't built for that, and they don't really work with structured data anyway. Okay. That being said, like, again, it goes back to their terms of service. Like, right. We still have to trust that they're not gonna. Yeah. Otherwise, you know, in the very near future, like now / in the near future, you have your own private LLM, and you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just you're good. Yeah. Yeah. Which is going to happen. I mean, it'll happen on your phone. It'll happen on your. Yeah. It was funny. One of the things is, you know, I've always been an entrepreneur, right? And so I have a backup drive from all of my previous laptops, right? And so I have all of these old business ideas, right? And I wanted to upload them in Claude and say, hey, look at all of my own business ideas and see if A, they solve any current challenges and they're worth now, given AI and automation, something that could be turned into a business, right, to create revenue, or, you know, hey, they were great ideas in 1980, but they have no use now, right? Or portions of them could be relevant to what you're working on today.
Correct. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so looking at that as my personal knowledge database, how do I take all of my years of experience, and if I have the data and I have the files, and creating that future roadmap, right? Like one of the things I've been doing with Claude is I did have it do this mirror principle where it's like, hey, this is a consistent thing you do. You procrastinate on this type of decision, right? And it tells me every day when I run the scan, it's like, you're still procrastinating on this decision, right? Which is great. What I also have been working with is where are my time wasters, right? Or in a way, where are my blind spots, right? Why am I doing things that could be better done by an AI agent or my chief of staff or my podcast assistant versus me, right? Because entrepreneurs, I think, are always making that decision of, oh, it's just faster for me to do it myself. But if you do 5 of those things a day and it takes 3 hours, right? Then what's the monetary cost to your business of you spending 3 hours doing stuff that an AI agent or a $10, $11 Filipino virtual assistant can do?
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is architecting your ecosystem around everything that you know, everything that you've written, every document you've ever had, and that's literally again why we're obsessed with that, because if you could have all of that and that's part of your knowledge graph, as Will Corrente and co. I mean, then now everything that you just said is like real pain points, which are real like palatable pain points as an entrepreneur, becomes available to unlock. But you have to get there, right? Like you got to build that foundational layer, which is it's not trivial, but it's possible now. Like it's really hasn't really been possible until recently.
So what I would say is a potential opportunity for Bundle is to launch the Me Corp initiative. The corporation of me.
Yeah.
I'm just like Ford. I've got all of these experiences, data, ideas, things that I've looked at, things I've tried, things that haven't worked, things that did work, things that part of it, if I put it in context with something else, could have worked, right? But, time, experience, everything, was, not everything was aligned, right?
Yeah.
And so now I have this opportunity to take my collective knowledge from all my years of experience and all the different endeavors I've had and put it into this Me Corp database that says, hey, I'm heading into this second chapter of my life where, it's funny, I was having this conversation in a trading room. Guy's like, hey, I'm 65. He's like, I'm looking at my life of how do I balance the money I'm making with the travel I want to do, the time I want to spend with my family. He's like, I'm not looking at it where I've got to juice every dollar I can out of every day, right? And so when you look at, being able to take all of your collective experiences is like, okay, where can I produce maximum value and still have the lifestyle that I want? Right?
Yeah.
And that's Me Corp.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, we're like really nudging up against that possibility, I think, today. Like, it's so close.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been proving
Bundle
it.
IQ, Me Corp, TM.
Yeah, we've been proving it with data, like at millions and millions of records of data. And what we realize is like, look, documents are not the best store of knowledge. Why? Because they get versioned out. If I update a document in your Dropbox and you don't know about it, or maybe I don't update the document, then that's a problem, right? So this like graph layer that sits on top of it, like once you've got the kind of primary corpus that you can build from, once you have the graph layer, then everything beyond that becomes emergent. Yeah. Meaning like you can just talk to Alani, or Alani just picks it up from the next email or from the thing that you're doing. And that adds to the graph. And then in addition to that, you can do what we're calling like knowledge gardening. So you send an agent to like look for conflict, and contrast and things of that nature to start to call those out and start to reconcile knowledge across the different layers. So it's It's exciting, man.
Yeah,
I mean, this is like
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We have to wrap up, but something like a real world thing is this. Like, I mean, you're still in really good shape and you're young, but like I've had periods of my life where my diet was working, my exercise routine was working, right? And then you let yourself get off track. And then it's like, I'm trying to get back to where I was in September. What was I doing, right, in terms of diet and exercise and routine that produced the results that I want, right? And for me, it might be a universal challenge to some other people in the audience, but for me, it's like, hey, wait a second, I let myself drift so much. Now I'm trying to get back to where that was. And so in a way of this structured data of having this timestamp of where things were at a particular point in my life would help me get back to the habits and routines that produce the result.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, being referential in that way is powerful because it holds up the mirror. You mentioned I don't remember what you called it, but yeah, like the reflection of like who you are and who you aim to be. And,
right.
And again, going back to hallucination, like we drift, like our memory drifts, like our behaviors drift, and so it's just, without being too like futuristic and like sci-fi about it, but like, this is essentially what we're doing is we're reducing the cognitive load. And like we all have this kind of sympathetic nervous system that's always sort of buzzing, right? Mm-hmm. But like if we could somehow offshoot some of that to like to the agent to sort of like help us, nudge us along, sort of like keep us on track and with our whatever it is, then what we get back is our humanity. Like we get to, the humanities are really what matter most, because I can be present. I don't have to worry about checking my inbox because it's already flagged. The text message it's not relevant right now or not a priority because I'm with Will at a podcast, And so that's where, maybe I'm being overly optimistic about AI, but that's where, that's where my heart's at. And that's where that's why I'm investing so much in this.
Yeah. I mean, where we're going spiritually is greater awareness, greater understanding of ourselves, greater connection to source, right? Dropping the doer, feeling like I've got to keep doing to get results instead of, just kind of being open and aware and letting opportunities present itself. And, these are tools that can help facilitate that so that there is less doing that needs to be done.
It's a good place to wrap.
Well, thanks so much, buddy. It was great to see you. If people want to connect with you and learn more or want to get on the Bundle IQ platform, where do they go? Yeah,
just Google Bundle IQ or bundleiq.com, and then you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm always available via one message away. So
awesome. Sounds great. Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Source, Rulebreakers, Lawmakers, and Influencers. Will Corrente with my guest, Nick Monaki of Bundle IQ. See you next time.